Hello, this is Allie with the Perception Trainers, and today I am super excited to talk to you about the part about living your bliss or living your dream or following your bliss or whatever you want to call it that nobody talks about. Okay, so I was inspired to make this video because, again, I think that there are so many instances in our world where people take journeys going from their pain, their suffering, their disease, their terrible marriage, their awful work environment, their life that feels like it is stifling them. They go from that to, living their dream, living their passion, healing, finding the love of their lives, doing all these amazing things. And they talk about the beginning where everything was terrible, and they talk about the end place where everything is amazing. And this is where we get things, the concept of follow your bliss, because really, these people in their after state do follow their bliss. They really, so they are not lying to you when they say, I follow my bliss, and the way that I got here is that I followed my bliss. Now, they are a little bit lying to you when they tell you that in the beginning and for the first little while of their journey of leaving their old life and coming into their new life, that it was not blissful at all. And that's what I want to talk about here, okay? So, and again, I don't think these people are purposefully lying. I really think that when you look out at someone who has transformed their life in some way, when they went from being, like a drunk, alcoholic, deadbeat to an ultra marathoner, and they said, I followed my bliss, they are telling you the truth 90%, right? When someone went from their eating disorder or their other kind of like depression or anxiety or whatever, and they followed their bliss all the way to this awesome life where they live their dreams, they are not lying, but they're only telling you 90% of the truth, all right? So the reason that this topic is so important is because the real truth is when you are getting ready to shift your life in a massive way, okay? If you are in pain and suffering and you are wanting to move your life towards bliss and joy, okay? You are in pain and suffering, you have depression, you have anxiety, you have a terrible marriage or a terrible relationship pattern that you're in all the time, or you can't seem to get it together with your career, or you have issues with your body, or you have all of these things, right? Your life is in a state where you just feel terrible most of the time. Like in my other videos I talked about, it's not going to be just one little follow your bliss step to the new place. However, okay, so here's the other major key, is that in the beginning, when you're starting to make these shifts and make these changes, because you are so much in a state of fear, right? And we've talked about this before. When you're in suffering, you are in a deep state of fear, and you may not even recognize that or understand that or feel that necessarily because you're so used to feeling like that, right? That's going to feel normal. This fear state that you're in, this anxiety, the depression, the self-destructive behaviors, the self-destructive relationships, the I can't get my finances together, I can't get my job together, I keep, finding myself in these terrible situations. You're not gonna even notice that you're in a state of fear because, again, you're always in a state of fear, right? We need contrast in order to understand where we are. So you're gonna be in this intense state of fear already, right? Which, because of human psychology, when we are in a state of fear, we want everything to stay the same. We want homogeny, we want predictability. Even if that homogeny and predictability is awful, okay? Even if that's eating disorder, even if that's terrible job, terrible relationships, anxiety, depression, all of these things, there's going to be something inside of you, right? That fear reptilian brain part of yourself that does not want to change, because in that fear state, change is threat. So even if you know you're moving in a positive direction, like you're moving towards self-love, you're moving towards a better career, you're moving towards something that you can logically, in your mind, if you follow it all the way through, see that it is going to benefit you, in the moment it's going to feel awful to make changes, okay? And this is a huge key for you to understand. If you are in pain and suffering, and you are looking to change your life to something more positive, the beginning phases are not going to feel anything like bliss. It's actually going to feel better to you in that state to stay doing the painful, harmful, self-destructive things that you're used to doing than it's going to feel to do anything that moves you away from that. Okay? And this is, again, the part of the process that no one talks about. In the beginning, change is scary and it's painful and you feel crazy, okay? And you're gonna resist it. It's not gonna feel like bliss. It's not gonna feel exciting. It's not gonna feel emotionally safe for you to make changes, okay? Because again, your lizard brain, your fear brain, wants to keep everything exactly how it is because it knows it can survive that. You see what I'm saying here? You know how to do your self-destructive behaviors. You know how to do your fear-based behaviors. You know how to do your small life where you feel strangled. It may not be fun, it may not be pretty, it may not be enjoyable, but you know how to survive it. And that's where your brain is at right now. So you need to understand this. In order to move towards the life of your dreams, in the beginning, you're gonna have to do things on faith. You're gonna have to do things on faith. It's not gonna feel good. So literally every single time I've made a massive shift in my life, it did not feel like bliss, okay? It felt right. I knew that I was headed in the right direction, right? Self-love made sense. Eating more made sense. Getting rid of all my possessions and moving to Thailand, to me in the time, made sense. But it was not a pleasant emotional experience, okay? Getting to the life of my dreams that I have now where I can follow my bliss, where things are pretty much like, yeah, if that feels terrible, don't do it. If it feels awesome, do it. This is an after state. It is an after state. It's not how you're gonna get there. Because right now, to you, following what you think is bliss when you're in the pain and suffering is gonna keep you in the pain and suffering. What you think is bliss right now is actually your self-destructive behavior, and it's comfort and familiarity. It's not bliss, okay? But again, because you don't have the contrast of what actual freedom and actual love and actual excitement feels like when you're in that fear state, well, you may have it, but maybe you've forgotten it, you haven't had it in so long, right? To you, bliss is gonna be doing what you've always done. Bliss is going to be eating the entire pint of ice cream every night. Bliss is going to be staying with your lover because you know how to do that abusive relationship. Bliss is going to be staying in the job because it's not actually bliss. But you don't know that, okay? Right now, to you, comfort, safety, and familiarity are what you like. And that is why most people never actually make a huge transition in their life. Because they've been sold this bill of goods that when you're making these positive changes, it's gonna feel good and you're gonna wanna do it and you can follow your bliss all the way to your dream, when the truth is that is not how it starts, right? So everyone says, okay, well, I'm just gonna follow my bliss, and then they get all confused because they're like, well, if I'm gonna follow my bliss, like my bliss tells me to stay in this relationship. It feels really scary and awful and terrible to leave this person. Or my bliss tells me, it actually feels safer to stay in this job that I know is self-destructive, but I don't know where I'm headed and I don't know where I'm going and I don't know what other job I'm going to get, so I'd rather stay in this because that feels more blissful than taking the risk to leave. Or, maybe you might even say it actually feels more blissful to stay in my self-destructive, hating myself, essentially, thought patterns and behavior patterns, because again, those are familiar. I know how to do those. I know what it's going to do, and it requires work, and it requires effort, and it requires stepping out of my known comfort zone in order to think positively about myself, in order to do any of these things. And I don't know that it's going to work, and I don't want to put in the effort if I don't have a guarantee that it's going to work. And then in the beginning, like I say, when you make these radical changes in your life, in the beginning it's not going to look like it's working. It's going to be a whole bunch of work and a whole bunch of stepping out and a whole bunch of, doing things different and not seeing the results. So that's the other thing. People don't tell you that in the beginning, I made changes because I knew that where I was miserable. Those changes were fucking scary and they didn't do anything at first, right? I had to stay committed to making these changes over and over and over and over and over again, and watching my entire life fall apart, and keep making changes and keep watching everything fall apart, and keep making changes and keep watching everything fall apart. And then it started to become blissful. And that's the other thing, okay? When you start to make these changes in the beginning, it's a destruction. You're not building a new thing yet, right? When you first start to move out of the pain and suffering that you're in, you're breaking shit down. You're letting stuff go. You're excavating foundations. It's rocking you to your core. Your entire inner being and your entire outer being, depending on how crazy you are down in the suffering hole, is going to shift. And like I say, when you're locked in fear brain, that's all going to seem scary. You're not going to see where it's going, because when you're locked in fear brain, future vision is very hard to have. And you're not going to see results at first, because the results are all underground. They're all internal. They're all inside. And the only thing that you're going to see is the destruction of your old life. You're not going to see the new life. And so this is why people give up, because they think something must be going horribly wrong, because I'm totally anxious. I don't feel better. I actually feel worse. I feel more scared. I feel less like I can control my environment. I feel less blissful than I did before. Why would I bother doing this? And it doesn't look like it's working, right? I'm putting in all this discipline to change my mind. I'm putting in all this discipline to change my behaviors. I'm putting in all this discipline to change my work or to leave my boyfriend or whatever. And it feels terrible. It looks terrible. Everything is getting worse. What's the deal? Obviously it doesn't work. I'm going to turn around and go back. So what you need to understand is that in the beginning, when you make these shifts, it's a destruction. You're getting rid of all the stuff that isn't going to fit in your new life, that isn't going to fit in your new personality, that isn't going to fit in your new expression of authenticity. So it's a destruction. And that's going to look scary, and that's not going to feel blissful, and that's not going to feel good. Because in this moment, you don't really know what bliss feels like. Okay? And that's another thing that's kind of a tough pill to swallow. But when you're in pain and suffering, what you know is comfort and security. What you know is how to make the pain less through probably self-destructive behaviors. What you know is how to drown stuff out. That's not bliss. Okay? So, like I say, in the beginning, follow your bliss isn't the thing to do, right? When you're really deep in pain and suffering, you might have moments of understanding what your bliss is. Okay, so like I say, you're going to have moments of clarity. You're going to have moments of awakening. You're going to have moments of like, yeah, okay, I heard something and I know that that's the right path, right? Someone's going to give you a book. Someone's going to take you to a class. You're going to hear a teacher speak. You're going to get a flash of insight that this needs to change, something needs to shift, da 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 da. And you'll have those moments, okay? Those moments will happen that guide you on your path. But the thing is, you have to actually take the steps, okay? You will receive the guidance. When you shout out to the universe, I want to change, I want to heal, I want to get better, it always answers you. And like I said in my last video, or one of my previous videos, that you're not ready for the ultimate answer to your problem yet, right? It's going to give you the next step. And the next step is going to seem scary, okay? It's going to seem hard, and you're going to have no guarantee that it's going to work. And you have to do it anyways, right? It's most likely not going to give you results in the beginning. It's going to take time. Because like I said, the steps that you're going to be given are the destruction ones. Because you have to rip out the foundation of the old painful life, the old painful mindsets, the old painful beliefs, the old painful everything that was built up to support the life of you suffering before you can build the new life. And that's scary, right? Especially to your lizard brain. And the other thing too is like, really, once you get kind of over that initial hump, which can last anywhere from a couple of weeks to a couple of months to a couple of years, depending on where you're at, you, like I say, you will transition to become one of those people who can follow your bliss. And you will know what's right for you. And like I say, you'll know when you're at that place, when following your bliss and doing what you know is good for you and is nourishing for you and is supportive of you living a healthy, expanded, joyful life are the same things. If you're still fighting with following my bliss means eating an entire pint of ice cream in front of Netflix for the entire weekend, right? You're not there yet. That's not bliss. That's drowning it out. You don't want to feel what you're feeling. You don't want to see what you're seeing. You don't want to go through what you're going through. And again, that's totally fine. I think this is the other thing, okay? Be super gentle with yourself during the initial phases of this change, okay? No, you are not going to wake up tomorrow and have only positive thoughts about yourself, okay? You're not going to wake up tomorrow and be like, I'm leaving my terrible relationships and I will never get into another terrible one ever again. You're not going to wake up tomorrow, quit your job, and then find your dream job. It's not going to happen like that, okay? It's going to be step, 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 and it's going to look like going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and all over, okay? It's going to look like 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Again, because in the beginning it's more distraction than it is anything, okay? And you're not going to have a clear vision of where you're going, and really you don't need one, okay? So commit to the journey. Know that it's going to be scary and hard and painful in the beginning, right? Even if parts of it are super exciting, like you know you need to be doing this next step and that really, really excites you, but there's this other part of you that's just horrified and terrified and doesn't want to do it, that's normal. If there's one part of you that starts to say, okay, I know I need to shift my eating, I know I need to do this, I can do it for a day or two and then I fall off, just keep chipping away at it. Just keep showing up. Be super gentle with yourself every time you fall back into your old behaviors, but don't give up. Do not give up. That is the key. The people that made it, okay, are not the ones that had this straight, perfect line from shitty life to awesome life. That's not what happened. They went all crazy every single direction, back and forth, all around. Okay, I could tell you 100 million stories of my life going absolutely insane. Okay, totally insane. But eventually, because I didn't give up, that's literally it, I just didn't quit, I got here where I can follow my bliss, and my life is pretty blissful, and that's not a brag, and that's not me being special, because I'm not special. I am just like you. I am literally just like you. There is nothing about me or about my life that is special or unique, okay? I got to where I am from terrible, awful, painful life to really awesome, great life, because I didn't quit. I let myself do the scary things. I kept trying even when I failed at being the new person over and over and over again. I didn't assume that I knew that I was there. I didn't assume that the things that I was doing weren't working. I assumed they were working. And this is how I got here, okay? And again, I had to learn what my bliss was. I didn't know what my bliss was, because again, right, I started at the beginning with my bliss being nothing. I don't know, nothing was blissful, and what was comfortable to me and what was safe and what was familiar was being codependent, was being in an eating disorder, was being completely not valuing myself and my worth, was completely letting everyone walk all over me. Like, I was the poster child for being a victim, and right? So much of my journey was about taking my power back and stepping back into owning who I am as a human being and not apologizing for myself being here. And that was hard and scary, right? And leaving behind my eating disorder was hard and scary, because then there was all of this pain and all this emotion that came up from it, right? That my eating disorder was helping me subdue, right? The eating disorder felt more blissful than healing did in the beginning, but I just didn't give up, right? Selling all my things and moving to Thailand did not feel blissful. That was like a solid 3 months of a mental breakdown pretty much every single day between me and my family, right? It wasn't blissful, but it was the right thing to do. And so that is the bottom line. Don't quit on your journey when in the beginning it just feels hard and scary and you don't trust it. You have to just keep going. Take the small steps and then be gentle with yourself when you fall off and get discouraged and hate it and are scared and all of this stuff. Do all of it, okay? Go for the scary thing. Know you're going to discover what your bliss is, and then let yourself go on the crazy, non-linear, non-straight line to where you want to be, because that's how it's going to look. That's how it looks for everybody. People just aren't talking about it because they look at that period of time like it was a mistake, like they made their mistakes there. No, they didn't. That's what the process looks like. That's what the destruction looks like. We're just not so great at the destruction here, all right? So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave those down below. Like, subscribe, share. Find me in Patreon, and I'll see you in the next video.